Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the if construct, and like I promised you, I am back with some more examples. Okay, so let's get into the program directly. Please read the question that you are seeing on the screen right away. Write a program to read 3 numbers from the user and to check if the numbers entered can form a right-angled triangle. So you're expected to read 3 numbers from the user. I've already done that for you, so I will just be pulling those lines up so that I don't have to, waste time. Okay. And I don't think you need any explanation regarding how do you read numbers from the user. So I've told him enter the first side, enter the second side, enter the third side. So I've just said sides. I've not said base, height or hypotenuse because they just said read 3 numbers. Okay. Now we have to check if these 3 numbers can form a right angled triangle. If you remember the Pythagoras, formula, it says hypotenuse square should be equal to base square plus height square. That's exactly what I'm going to check here. But here, I do not know which is the hypotenuse. It could be N1, it could be N2, or it could be N3. So then how do I write this in the condition? I write if, and please pay attention to what I do here. If N1 into N1 equals N2 into N2 plus N3 into N3. So here, what am I checking? If N1 square, N1 into N2, N1 means N1 square. Is N1 square equals to N2 square plus N3 square? But here I'm assuming probably N1 is the hypotenuse, but I don't know that. So what do? I can write a or and write the next condition. What if N2 is the hypotenuse? So I write N2 into N2 equals N1 into N1 plus N3 into N3. Okay, this here I'm assuming N2 is the hypotenuse. Or, so here with this example, I'm basically trying to show you is you can write multiple conditions with the if and you can connect it with the or. Okay. Or what is my next scenario? What if N3 is the hypotenuse? So N3 into N3 equals N1 into N1 plus N2 into N2. Okay, so I have 3 conditions. One of them should be satisfied. Okay, so let me just take you from the last to the first. N3 square should be equal to N1 square plus N2 square, or N2 square should be equal to N1 square plus N3 square, or N1 square should be equal to N2 square plus N3 square. In this scenario, what do? I can say they can form a right angled triangle. So I just say print can form a right angled triangle. Okay, and if this is not satisfied, if this condition, that means neither of them is, or means what? One of them should be true, right? If neither of them is satisfied, then what message can I give? I can say print cannot form a right angled triangle. Oh, not very fast with my typing. Okay, but at the end, I want to say that, the program is over. Not necessary, just to show you that irrespective of whichever condition, this is the last time I'm showing you this. You need not write this all the time, but I'm just showing you that irrespective of what condition you satisfy, you will definitely get this line. Okay, so you have all these conditions. Let me just execute the program. Now we know 2, 3, 5 can form a Pythagorean triplet, right? So I enter 2, I enter 3, and I enter 5. Okay, what message did it? cannot form a right angle triangle. Why did I get that? Sorry, 2, 3, 5, yes, cannot form a right angle triangle. It was 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let me just run the program once again, because guys, remember 2 square is what? 4. 3 square is what? 9. 9 plus 4 is not equal to 25. Correct, correct. I was mistaken. It is 3, 4, 5, I know, can form a right angle triangle. So I write 3 and I write 5, hypotenuse in between, and 4. Okay, it need not be 3, 5, 4, because we are checking all possible conditions. It gives you a message, can form a right angle triangle, and program over. So program over line came both times. Once it said cannot. Now here pay attention. In this case, my hypotenuse is the middle number. Doesn't matter. It is going to satisfy this condition, this one. Correct? So either of the conditions could be true for you to know that it can form a right angle triangle, because you wrote or. Or says any one of the conditions to be true for the statement to be true. Is that clear? So here in this example, I've shown you multiple conditions joined using the or keyword or the or logical operator. Not necessarily, I won't call it keyword, I would say logical operator. Okay. Let's go to another question. Here it says, write a program to read 3 numbers from the user and to check if the numbers can form a triangle. So it's not talking about right angled triangle. It's talking about whether it can form a triangle. You must have learned in your lower classes that you can form a triangle. I've got these reading lines once again. You can form a triangle when, can someone tell me that? Yes? I hear someone saying something. Yes. The sum of the two sides or sum of any two sides should always be greater than the third side. Okay. So what is my if going to be here in this scenario? I write if n1 plus n2 greater than n3. But that's not it. Sum of any two sides should be greater than the third side. And n2 plus n3 should be greater than n1. And what else am I left with? n1 plus n3 should be greater than n2. So you are taking all the sides. n1 and n2 should be greater than n3. n2 and n3 should be greater than n1, or n1 and n3 should be greater than n2. In this scenario, what can we say that yes, it can form? So I'm just writing a small message here. Can form, okay? And if I don't satisfy this condition, then what do? I write in the else that it cannot form. Print cannot form. Okay, so let me just give an example here and see whether we are going to be getting the right thing. Okay, I have 2, I have 3, and I have 5. Cannot form. Now, why is it saying cannot form? Because when I say 2 plus 3, 5, is 5 greater than 5? No. So that means this cannot form a triangle. But let me just run a program and let's say it is 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 3, 4, 5. And it says can form. Why? Because 3 plus 4 is greater than 5. 4 plus 5 is also greater than 3. And 3 plus 5 is also greater than 2. So if we satisfy this rule that the sum of the two sides will always be greater than the third side, then definitely we can draw a triangle with these measurements. And if we cannot have these conditions satisfied, it means you cannot. Is that clear? So in the previous example and this example, what's the difference? I joined multiple conditions here using AND, which means all the 3 conditions have to evaluate to a true. In the previous, it was OR, which means any one of the condition evaluating to a true is fine. Is that clear? Okay, let me take you to another interesting question. Okay, some children think this is the toughest question. Okay, but if you know the logic behind it, children, let me just say it's going to be very simple. So I'm going to be diagrammatically showing you a few things and then writing the coding. So, you can connect to it and understand what we are talking about. Okay. Question says, write a program to read the customer name, telephone number, and the number of calls made by the user. and you're supposed to be calculating his telephone bill or telephone charges, and they have given you certain conditions there that the first 100 calls has no charge at all, but from the next 150 calls, that means 101 onwards, there's a 1 rupee per call, and so on. Okay, I've already written statements where I read the things from the user, so that's there. And finally, I've already written statement to print, but we have not actually just calculated the bill. Okay, for that, let me just do some annotations. Okay, I'm going to be drawing a number line. Okay, first 100 calls. Let me see this. Let me say this number line is talking about number of calls. Okay, first 100 calls. So if I come in this category, there is no charge. Next 150 calls. So from 100, when you make 150 calls, what is the next condition? Up to 250. Agreed from here? From 100, 150 more calls. So that means up to 250. They're going to charge you how many? What amount? 1 rupee per call. Next 200. So next 200 will bring the bifurcation to 450. And for 450, that means from 251 to 450, that many calls, they'll charge you 2 rupees. Okay, let me just take another color just to explain a few things here. Okay, okay. So for this area, if you're in this area, your charge is 0. If you're in this area, you have to pay 1 rupee per call. If you're in this area, you have to pay 2 rupees per call. And beyond this, you will have to pay 3 rupees. Okay. Now let's assume, okay, which color do I take? Maybe yellow. Okay. Let's assume, oh, yellow is not visible. Let me take blue, let's say. Okay, blue. Okay, let's assume somebody has made calls up to this number. Let's say that is 75. Are you going to charge him anything? No, because he's within the 100. So how do I write that condition? How do I type that condition? Okay, so what do? I write if number of calls in my program is n calls less than or equal to up to which call? Up to 100. Do I have to pay anything? No. I say bill is equal to 0. I don't have to pay anything. Okay. Which is the next category I need to check? Okay. Now let me just show an annotation here. Suppose he has made 150 calls. Are you going to be charging him 1 rupee for all the 150 calls? No, you're supposed to be charging him 150 only for this range. What does this range mean? 150 minus 100, or the number of calls minus 100. For that much, you will charge him 1 rupee. So let me put that into my coding line. So that means my next condition is elif number of calls less than or number of calls is n calls in my program, less than or equal to the next 150, right? So it's equal to up to 250. Then am I charging him bill as, if I write this, children, let me just tell you, bill is equal to, if I write this, I'll tell you why things will go wrong. N calls multiplied by 1. It means if I made 150 calls, you're going to charge me 150 rupees. But no, out of the 150 calls, I'm not supposed to be charged for the 100. So subtract the 100, and for the remaining calls, that means 50 calls only, charge me 1 rupee. Correct? Okay. Now what? Now the next condition is elif. What's the next condition? You come under which category? What if your number of calls is less than or equal to 450? Okay, to understand this, let me just talk about some section here. Let's say I made 300 calls. Won't I be in this category? Yes. Now, are you going to be charging me 2 rupees for all the 300 calls? No, you're going to be charging me 2 rupees only for this part, which is the number of calls that I made minus 250. Okay. So I go back to my program. And say bill is equal to the number of calls that I have made minus 250 That small part that you see there, for that you charge me 2 rupees. Fine. But tell me something. If I have made 300 calls, have I made all these 150 calls also? Yes, I can't reach to 300 if I've not crossed that particular range. And for that range, how much are they charging me? 1 rupee, which means, and for all the 150 calls that I had made before I reached the 300, I have to be charged 1 rupee. Correct? Okay. Else means what? You have gone beyond 400 or 450 calls. So suppose I have made 520 calls. Will you charge me 3 rupees for all the 520 calls? No. You're going to be charging me 3 rupees only for this range. That means the number of calls minus 450, you're going to be charging me 3 rupees. But if I have made 50 calls, have I completed these 200 calls also for 2 rupees and these 100 calls also for 1 rupee? Yes. So I need to be taking that into consideration as well. So I write else bill is equal to, first let me see for how many calls will I be charged? 3 rupees. The number of calls that I made minus 450, because it's beyond 450 that it's 3 rupees, right? So number of calls that I've made minus 450 into 3 rupees plus the 200 calls that I have made, which they're charging me. So the 200 calls, they're charging me 2 rupees plus the 150 calls, they are charging me 1 rupee. Please understand that I have reached 520 after making 150 calls of 1 rupee, 200 calls of 2 rupees, and the remaining calls of 3 rupees. That's my calculation. And finally, I display the bill. Okay, so let's just run this program. It's asking me the customer name, let's say ASDF. It's asking me the telephone number, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's asking me the number of calls. Let me put the number of calls as 70. Okay, now according to others, he should be not charged at all. So bill amount is 0. Let me show you another scenario where the calculation will be easier. QQQQ, customer telephone number is this, number of calls. Let me take the 150 that we took. Okay, so when it's 150, it's telling me bill amount is 50. Why? Out of the 150, you remember, we were only charged for 50 calls, 1 rupee, and the other was free. Let's talk about another category. Probably, let's say www, telephone number 22222, number of calls. What did we take? 300. Okay, let's take 300. Now it's telling me the amount is 250. Let's just check. How much is 300 more than 250? 50. So for 50 calls, you were charged 2 rupees. Okay, so that 50 into 2 is 100. And for 150 calls, you were charged 1 rupee. So 150 plus 100, making it 250. And obviously, it's going to work for all other cases. All other case means we only have to see one more case. So if you know this number line concept, the writing of those lines wouldn't have been difficult. Okay. Now let me just take you another example where I had to show you what if we had a nested if. Okay, then what do we do? Now look at this program. It says, write a program to read the salesman number, salesman name, sale amount, and region. Regions are 2, either U for urban or R for rural, from the user, and to calculate his commission. So you're supposed to be calculating the commission of a salesman. Okay, so basic lines, I'm just pulling it up from here. I've read the salesman number, the salesman name, the sale amount, and the region. Now look at the region's input statement. I said enter region, U for urban, R for rural. Because if I just said enter region, how does the user know what he has to enter? So according to the program, he'll be entering U for urban, R for rural. So I'm putting up this message for him to know, okay, this is what is expected of him. Now look at the question. You're supposed to be calculating this commission, okay, when a sale amount is more than 20,000 and he belongs to the urban region. So first, so there are two conditions to be checked. First, you check whether he belongs to the urban region. So if region equals U, I'm assuming the user would have entered a capital U, okay? Or you could have said, or region equals small u. I'm assuming that he's entered a capital U. Now, If the region is U, is the commission constant? No. Then it depends on the sale amount. So again, I have a nested if there. So I'm checking if sale AMT greater than or equal to, what are they saying? 20,000. Then I need to calculate commission. What is commission calculated as? 7% of sale amount. That is 7 divided by 100 into sale amount, sale AMT, plus, now this is an interesting thing, 5% of the amount that exceeds 20,000. So let's say I made a sale of 22,000. How much more have I exceeded 20,000? 2,000. That is sale amount minus 20,000. So I have sale amount minus 20,000. That's my extra that I have done. And for that, they are giving me how much percent of commission? 5%. So into 5 divided by 100. Okay, so this is if you are in the urban region with a sale amount greater than 20,000. Else, now pay attention to the else. Otherwise, it says that means you are in the urban region, but your sale amount is not greater than 20,000. What are they giving me? 5% of sale amount. So I write commission is equal to 5 divided by 100 into sale AMT. Okay, I hope this extra exceeding is, how much do you exceed 1,000 means what? That amount minus 1,000. So how much do you exceed 20,000 means what? Sale amount minus 20,000. Okay, so now I'm writing another else here. What would this mean if the region is not U? Okay, and I'm assuming that the user would have entered R, because he could enter either a U or a R. So I'm not going to check into whether did he really enter R. I'm assuming. Later on, we'll see what if he doesn't enter, then what do I do about it? And how do I tell him that, you have not entered the correct region or not? That we'll learn a little later. So I'm assuming here that he's, if not U, it's going to be R. Okay. So what do? I write commission is equal to, and for R, is there a condition based on the sale amount? No, it's 6% for everybody. So I write commission is equal to 6 by 100 into sale AMT. Okay. And finally, I display the commission. So this is a nested, can you see a if? Oh, can you see a if that was written under a if? So because the commission depended on the sale amount, but before that it depended on the region. So first I checked in which region he comes into, then I checked his sale amount and calculated the commission depending upon the condition given. But if he doesn't belong to U and he belongs to R, I am going to be writing commission is equal to 6 by 10 into sale amount. You could have written, instead of a L, you could have also written elif region equals R. So if it's R, then I do commission is equal to this. But in this scenario, just mind you that suppose he enters anything other than what you say R or a U, then in that scenario, it doesn't do the ifs, but it comes to this line and it says print your commission is, and that wouldn't make sense, right? So then what I could do is as follows. I put this line here and I also put this line here. Sorry, here. Okay, and I also put this line here. And in the else part, I write print, sorry, wrong region code or whatever. Okay, so if I put your commission is down, then it would say sorry, wrong region code and still go down. Okay, or, okay, this is one way of doing it. Or another alternative would be, I would show it to you. Another alternative would be, don't write it multiple times. I could show you another alternative. This is fine, perfectly fine. You could do this. Okay, so just calculate commission. In the end, before displaying the commission, you check if region equals U or region equals R. Only in that scenario you display the commission. So now my problem is solved. If it's U, it will calculate based on this. If it's R, it will calculate based on this. If it's not U or not R, the user entered anything else, it would say print, sorry, wrong region code. But what will happen is before I print commission, I will check did he enter a U or a R. Only then will I print. So the whole idea is one way was you could put this into the U and the R part of it. Or previously I put it in each of the if and the else, but you could put it here, like I show you here, this cursor region, as well as this cursor region. Or you just write the commission and write it only once, but before you display, you see to it that the region is the correct region. Okay, so let me just run the program. It's asking me salesman number, let's say 1, salesman name, let's say A, sale amount, let's say 10,000. And region is urban, okay? So it's calculated 5% of 10,000, that is 500, and displayed it to me. Okay, suppose I run the program again and I enter salesman number as 2, salesman name as this, sale amount as whatever, but I enter region as let's say T. It says, sorry, wrong region code, and it didn't do any calculation for me. Is that clear? So if you want to avoid it, though I thought I would be telling you this concept later, but you could even do this. So understood? Now children, if you need to practice any more questions or you want to solve any more questions, then I've given you a link in the description column. You can follow the link. It will lead you to my website, which will give you few more questions to solve for practice purpose, as well as the answers for those questions. Okay, so I hope the if statement is clear with you. Okay, thank you.